In today's video, we are going to be talking about creating a cinematic title for our videos. But first, let's talk about what a cinematic title is. It refers to creating a stylized and visually captivating text that you can use in your films, trailers, and even videos to enhance on a certain element of a story. Without much further ado, let's dive into Premiere Pro and start creating our cinematic text. Phase 1. Building a cinematic foundation. So this involves getting the right elements for our title, adding the fonts that we want, and it's just everything about building the necessary elements that we want to include in our title. Under this phase 1, we have 3 steps. The first being choosing the right fonts that we want. The second step being fine-tuning the font. Beginning with step 1, which is choosing our fonts. We need to choose a font that resonates with the narrative tone and the theme of the scene we are working with. Then we can choose fonts like the serif, sans serif, or even a script font to evoke the emotions of the scene. Say for example, we are working with a horror scene. Choosing a scary font would be the perfect match for that scene because it will evoke the emotions of a scary scene that will make the viewer to engage more with what we're about to show to them. Choosing the right font really plays an important role. I want to start by choosing my font. So the first thing I'll need to do is to first of all have the title set up. So I'm going to click on the type tool down here or press T to activate the type tool. Click right here and I'll type in the title. I want to choose a different font for this. The first thing we're going to do is to move to the Essential Graphics panel. And if you can't find the Essential Graphics panel, you can click on this window here and you'll find the Essential Graphics. Selecting the text layer and clicking under the Edit tab, you will find all of the options that you can play around with. What I want to start with here is to choose the font. So right here, when I click, you see all of the fonts that is present on your computer. And this is the font right here that I want to work with. And the name is Galano. So I'm going to click on Galano here. Then I can choose the font style and say I want the black. And the next step is fine-tuning the fonts. That is adjusting the kerning and tracking, which is the space in between the characters, which will lead to more readability of the title. Still under the Essential Graphics, the first thing I'm going to do is to increase the font size to about 200. And I'll change the title to be all caps by clicking here. And I can center it up by moving to the Align and Transform, and I'll click right here to center it vertically and this to center it horizontally, so it will be at the center of our video. I want to increase the space in between each characters of this title, so I'm going to click here and I'll set a value of about 100. So this will vary depending on the font and the title you're working with. Now moving to the third step, which is experimenting with the title. I'm going to change the color, add in some other elements like a background, or even add in a stroke and so many other options. Still under the Essential Graphics, you will locate the Appearance tab here, and under the Appearance tab you will find the Fill. So clicking on this fill here, you will change the color of the title, and if you click right here, you will see that I have solid, linear gradient and razor gradient. So I'm going to show you how you can use the linear gradient on your title. So when you click on it, you need to just change basically the first color here and the second color, send it to yellow. And that's how easy you can apply a gradient to your title. But I don't really want to work with gradients right now, so what I'm going to do is to change this to a solid fill color, and I'll choose the color yellow. And the reason why I want to work with the color yellow is it contrasts with the background that I'm working with, and the color blue and yellow really gives you a good combination. Now I'm going to modify the background element of our title. So with this background element here, you can check or uncheck this box here to make it to be visible. Then I'm going to increase the opacity to 100, and this, which is the space surrounding the title inside the background. So I'm going to set this to about 50%. And this here is the corner radius, so it just rounds the edges of our background. Moving on to phase 2 is animating our cinematic title. Animating our cinematic title brings in the motion effect to it, and motion evokes our viewers' emotions, so that's something you should always implement in your cinematic titles. And I'll be using the basic properties of motion to animate this title. That is the scale, the position, and the opacity. And the position and the opacity property will be used to review our title, while the scale property is just going to match up the scene that we're working with. Back to Premiere Pro. I'll select the text layer, and then under the effects and control, you'll find the vector motion, and these are the properties: the position, the scale, and down here we have the opacity. So I'm going to set in the keyframe for the position, and then for that of the opacity, and even that of the scale property. Then I'll move somewhere around here, not too far and not too close to the first keyframe. Set in the second keyframe for the position, but not for the scale. Move down to the opacity and set in the second keyframe. At the end of our video clip here, let me just move it somewhere around here. Yeah, let's see, around there. I'll set in the end keyframe for our scale. So moving back to the first keyframe of our position here, I'm going to bring it down just somewhere around here. I think this is fine. Then the opacity, I'm going to turn it down to 0. So when I play this, you see it just reveals the title. For the second keyframe of the scale property here, I'm going to increase the scale to about, let's say, 200. Let's see how 200 looks like. So it depends on the size that you want. Let me set it to 150. As you can see, the video clip I'm working with is a drone shot of a river, and it zooms in while playing. So using the scale property really matches up the flow of that video clip. You can use so many other effects to animate the title. You can even use the basic 3D property to animate it in a 3D space. And you can also use the rotation property to match up the flow of your video clip. So it all depends on the feeling that you're having about your title and the video clip you're working with. It should all match up with the flow of your video clip. And that's how you can create a cinematic title text in Premiere Pro. You can go ahead and play around with all of these options and create a cinematic title that fits your own taste. And that's it for today's video. Hope you found the video interesting and helpful. You can follow along with this tutorial to create your own cinematic titles and leave your feedback in the comment section below, and I'll be there to read your comments. Subscribe so you won't miss the next video from me, and like the video to support the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, keep editing.